Hi, I'm Sophia. This is Sophia Reviews, and today I'm reviewing Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters is a film about ghost cops arresting ghosts and putting them in ghost prisons. They don't care about environmental regulations, and some of them like to sexually harass women, but despite not entirely aging well, it's still one of the all-time great 80s movies and still one of my favorites. Bill Murray, Ernie Hudson, everyone gives such an amazing performance in this film. It's funny, it's silly, but it still has some dramatic weight to it as well. It's led to a few sequels, cartoons, video games, toys, theme songs. It's a really big deal. I used to watch the cartoon and play the Sega Master System game. I saw the second film in the drive-in theater. I saw the reboot and the latest film in the theater. I plan to review Ghostbusters 2016 next. It's going to be divisive. We start off with a librarian going through what else? A library. Books start to float through the air behind her as she peruses the aisles. She grabs a clipboard and keeps a walkin'. Library cards start to fly off of filing cabinets, and she screams and runs away. She sees a ghost off camera and screams. Cue the Ghostbusters theme song and logo. We see in the next scene Bill Murray playing Dr. Peter Venkman. He's doing a psychic test on a man and a woman and shocking the man when he gets the answers wrong but not the woman. He's a bit of a pig, but this is the 80s, so we're supposed to relate to him and root for him. The man gets zapped one too many times and storms out of Peter's office, telling him to keep the $5. Dan Aykroyd, playing Dr. Raymond Stantz, bursts into the office to tell Peter what happened at the library. Harold Ramis, playing Dr. Egon Spangler, joins Ray and Peter at the library as they interview the librarian about what went down. Peter asks her if there's a history of schizophrenia in her family, if she uses drugs and alcohol, and if she's menstruating. They examine the slime on the library cards the ghosts touch and gauge them for ectoplasm. They walk around the shelves, one falls over. They see the ghost of an old woman. They huddle up and make plans. Ray says they should try to make contact and speak to her, and Egon says that's a good idea. Peter says, "Hello, I'm Peter. Where are you from originally?" The ghost does not respond. She then turns into a monstrous version of herself, and the Ghostbusters run screaming out the building. Egon says, according to the new readings, I have an excellent chance of actually catching a ghost and holding it indefinitely. A higher up at the university cuts off their funding and says your theories are the worst type of popular tripe, your methods are sloppy, and your conclusions are highly questionable. You're a poor scientist, Dr. Venkman. Ray tells Peter this is a major disgrace. Forget MIT or Stanford. They wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot cattle prod. Personally, I like the university. They gave us money and facilities. We didn't have to produce anything. You've never been out of college. You don't know what it's like out there. I've worked in the private sector. They expect results. Peter says, call it fate, call it luck, call it karma. I believe everything happens for a reason. I believe we were destined to get thrown out of this dump and go into business for ourselves. Ray mortgages his childhood home to fund their ghost copping endeavors. They move into a broken down fire station and set up shop. Egon says, I think this building should be condemned. There's serious metal fatigue in all load-bearing members, the wiring is substandard, and it's completely inadequate for our power needs, and the neighborhood is like a demilitarized zone. Ray says, hey, does this pole still work? And he slides down the fireman pole and says, hey, this place is great. When can we move in? You gotta try this pole. I'm gonna get my stuff. Hey, we should stay the night, sleep here, try it out. Peter says, I think we'll take it. Rick Moranis playing Louis Tully and Sigourney Weaver playing Dana Moret have a chat outside her apartment. He flirts with her awkwardly and she shuts him down. Dana sees a commercial for the Ghostbusters on her TV. She shuts it off. She sets her groceries on the table and then her eggs bubble and burst from the heat. She opens her fridge and sees demon dogs inside some sort of supernatural vortex. Ray finds a broken down hearse and says, everyone can relax. I found the car. It needs some suspension work and shocks and brake pads, brake lining, steering box, transition, rear end. Peter asks, how much does it cost? Ray says only $4,800 and maybe some new rings, also mufflers, a little wiring. Annie Potts playing Janine, the receptionist, asks Egon if he has any hobbies, and he says he collects spores, molds, and fungus. Dana sees the Ghostbusters and says a voice said Zool, and she slammed the refrigerator door and left, and she hasn't been back to her apartment in 2 days. Egon says he's telling the truth, at least she thinks she is. Ray says it could be past life experience intruding on present time. Egon says he wouldn't rule out clairvoyance or telepathic contact either. Peter goes back to Dana's apartment to check for ghosts. She says he doesn't act like a scientist, more like a game show host. At the Ghostbusters HQ, they're having Chinese takeout with beers and Coke, and they say it represents the last of the petty cash. Janine gets a phone call and shouts, we've got one, and the alarms go off. The Ghostbusters rush down the pole and get ready. They drive off in the Ghostmobile. They head to a fancy hotel and meet Slimer, a green ghost who is chowing down on some hotel food. Ray zaps him with his proton beam and Slimer slimes off. Peter sees Slimer at the end of the hall and Slimer bum rushes Peter and he gets slimed. Peter tells Ray he's been slimed and Ray says that's great physical contact. They track Slimer down to a banquet hall and shoot a chandelier he's flying around. Egon says not to cross streams on their proton beams as it would be bad. They shoot Slimer, open a trap, and suck him in. There's a montage of the Ghostbusters being famous and successful. Ernie Hudson, playing Winston Zedmore, is hired as the newest Ghostbuster and he is shown the ropes. William Atherton, playing Walter Peck, shows up to inspect the Ghostbusters HQ. He's from the EPA. He's a dick, but the Ghostbusters are also dicks in terms of not really being concerned about the environmental impacts of ghostbusting. Dicks all around. Dana blows off Louise because she's on a date with Peter. Monster Hands bursts out of her chair and Demon Dogs burst through the kitchen door. Her chair slides into the kitchen. Louise is having a dinner party and a demon dog bursts into the room, knocks over the table with the snacks and chases him out of the building. Dana is possessed by Zool and Peter tries to snap her out of it and she says there is no Dana, only Zool. Walter Peck is back at the Ghostbusters HQ and he is shutting down the whole operation for environmental regulation reasons. Egon says shutting off the equipment would be like dropping a bomb on the city. Peter says, you shut that thing down, we will not be held responsible for whatever happens. They shut it off and all hell breaks loose. All the ghosts fly out of the building. It's a disaster. Walter has the Ghostbusters arrested. A montage shows ghosts wreaking havoc on the city. In prison, Egon tells the Ghostbusters that after the First World War, a man named Shander decided humanity was too sick to survive. He and 1,000 followers in a secret society of Gozer worshippers conducted rituals intended to bring about the end of the world, in the building Dana now lives in, which is cursed with some bad energy because of it. Louise says he's the keymaster, and Dana says she's the gatekeeper, and they make out in the ruins of her apartment. The Ghostbusters are out of jail on the promise that they can save the day and bust the ghosts. The ground splits open as the Ghostbusters reach the cursed building, and it swallows them whole. Then they crawl back out, and the crowd goes wild. They climb up a very long set of stairs, and my PTSD for the Sega Master System Ghostbusters video game is going wild. Zool is on the roof of the building where the occult rituals were once held, and she is looking sexy in skimpy clothes as a dark storm lingers in the sky. Louise and Dana are getting zapped by purple lightning as the Ghostbusters make their way to the roof. They turn into demon dogs. Gozer appears and she looks like the singer from an 80s synth band. She asks if they are gods. They say no, and Gozer says then die and zaps them with pink lightning. Winston says, Ray, when someone asks if you're a god, you say yes. They try to zap her with their proton beams, but she dodges them. They shoot again and she teleports out of the way. Gozer says, choose and perish. Choose the form of the destructor. Peter says, empty your heads, don't think about anything. Gozer says the choice is made. Ray reveals he was thinking of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. A giant marshmallow kaiju stomps through the city, crushing and smushing everything as he goes. Egon says he's terrified beyond the capacity for rational thought. They open fire with their proton beams and Stay Puft screams in agony. Egon says you need to cross the streams, and Peter said, you said crossing the streams was bad. Egon says there is a very slim chance we will survive. They cross their streams and aim at the pyramid that Gozer came out of on the rooftop, and it explodes. They survive, covered in marshmallow gunk. Ghostbusters is one of those movies I can watch over and over, and it never gets old. From the funny jokes and memorable characters and world building, to the beautiful 80s practical effects and equally 80s pop soundtrack, it is exactly the sort of film that I, a child of the 80s, will forever love. Few movies come up with enough interesting ideas that you can build an entire franchise off of them, and this is one of them.